In today's video, I go more in depth on carb cycling, and we're going to talk about carbohydrates. Shocking, I know. They're all not created equally, and you're going to want to know exactly which ones you keep and which ones to cycle out during your carb cycle. What's up, guys? Frank Daniels here. Today we're talking carb cycling and carbohydrates, to be specific. Before we get rocking, make sure you download my 9 best tips on how to build a rock-solid core. You can download that by clicking this button right here. Mobile device users, head down below, click the first link in the description. Now, once again, talking carb cycling, talking carbohydrates. Not all carbohydrates are created equally. When you think carbohydrates, you normally think about things like starches and simple sugars. But you may not be factoring in that fruits and vegetables are also carbohydrates. Important to understand that ultimately all carbs get broken down into more simple sugars. But when we consume more simple sugars, things on this side of the equation, sugar in its most raw form, candies, treats, cookies, cakes, soda, fruit juice, things of that nature, very low nutritional value, it tends to stick around the body as body fat more often. So we try to avoid that stuff as much as possible. Then you have your starches. And starches can be broken down into subcategories itself. So complex and simple starches, your bread, your pasta, your rice, your potatoes, things of that nature. Complex means they're more whole grain options. They're going to break down more slowly in the body. Simple tends to be less complex, so they break down more quickly and usually they have a higher glycemic index, and again usually end up spiking blood sugar, which is not a great thing for storing body fat if you're trying to get rid of body fat. So those are typically your white bread, your white rice, white pasta, things of that nature. Then we have fruits and vegetables. Now fruits, as opposed to vegetables, tend to be a little bit higher in sugar. It's not tremendous, and it's not to say fruit is unhealthy, but they tend to be a little bit higher in sugar, as even compared to some of your more complex starches. So they will, once again, have a higher glycemic index or glycemic load, where they dump more sugar in the bloodstream more quickly, so you want to pay attention to that. And then we have vegetables. Vegetables are a carbohydrate. These typically stay in your diet at all times, and I'll tell you why. Vegetables, if you look at the nutrition content, even though they are considered under the carbohydrate umbrella, they don't have a lot of stuff in them. They have a ton of nutrients, the vitamins and minerals you need to survive, so vegetables are like the powerhouse of nutrition for the most part. But they don't have a lot of energy, so they don't have a lot of calories. And if you look, once again, at the nutrition content, you're not going to see a ton of carbohydrates. If you did not see the video on carb cycling that I did last week, where we match up the training cycle with the carb cycle, check that out. I linked it in the description below. But basically, in a regular carb cycle, you have a high carb day, medium carb day, low carb day. On a high carb day, you have all of these options available to you. Now, I'm going to cross out sugars and sweets. That probably doesn't belong in your diet anytime, except for like cheat meals. You get away with it then. But your regular diet, get that stuff out of there. But any starches, fruits, and vegetables are available on a high carb day. Particularly things like simple starches, again, white rice, white bread, pasta, things of that nature. They go really well after an intense workout. Just an FYI, story for another day, but that's when they're really effective. But again, you have all those options. As we climb down this hierarchy here, medium carb day, we want to start to think about reducing the amount of carbohydrates. So no simple starches, take those right out, and start to reduce the amount of complex starches that you eat. So you just eat less of those things and no simple starches. And on a low carb day, that's where you start to get rid of a lot of stuff. No complex carbohydrates or starches, and then even start to reduce the amount of fruit that you eat. Once again, fruit is pretty high in sugar, so you don't want to have a ton of it. You can have a little. It's healthy. I'm not saying it's unhealthy, but it is higher in sugar. So if you're trying to incorporate a carbohydrate cycle, it's very smart to kind of reduce those on your low carb days. Just a little thing to think about. You can interchange to some degree fruit and complex carbohydrates. You know, if you had more of this here or more of that there, and you kind of pulled back on either one because of that, you would be all right. Me personally, most of my carbohydrate intake is actually fruit. So when I'm trying to increase it, I increase more fruit as opposed to starches, complex or simple. Most of my complex starches end up in my high carb days. The rest of the days I don't eat too much of that stuff. It's more fruit. So again, it is slightly interchangeable. Fruit higher in sugar. I'm not saying it's unhealthy. I'm not saying complex carbohydrates are unhealthy. What I am saying is because they're higher in carbs or higher in sugar, as you're running this carbohydrate cycle and coming down this hierarchy to a low carb day, you're going to have to reduce those things if your goal is to get leaner and burn more body fat. And that's what it's all about. So I hope this stuff really helps you guys out. If you really enjoy this information, I have an entire free core training report where I give a bunch of tips, exercise, and nutrition on how you can develop a rock-solid midsection. You can download that by clicking this button right here. Mobile device users, head down below, click the first link in the description. I'd also love for you guys to head down below, leave a comment, tell me exactly what you want to see, and of course, subscribe to this channel right here so you can get more information and these videos sent directly to you. Hey, enjoy your day, guys. In today's video, I'm talking, you can get that by downloading this link, click this link, whole grain options, grain stuff, grains, man. Shit. Gonna start getting rid of, I need a fucking tan.